Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
Welcome back to the Bob Sullivan Show here on latenightsportsradio.com. If you want to call in, very rarely do people call in, but the number is 585-633-7487. Back here with Johnny Maloris from WindyCityStars.com to talk some MLB. Johnny, how you doing?
Oh, fantastic, man. At least you had a little bit better lead-in song this time, man. I'm telling you, you really got to change that intro song. But, you know, I'm cool with a little White Zombie.
Okay. Usually the lead-in song is Call Me Maybe by Carly Rae Jepsen. Would that do it for you?
No, that's awful. That's what I don't want to hear. I need to not hear that again. It's hard to talk baseball and come off sounding cool, you know, following up Carly Jepsen. You know what I mean? Plus, she's crazy. Okay. She already lost all her money, man.
Okay, well, the whole thing with sounding cool and talking baseball, that ship has sailed.
Hey, you know, there's no problem being a nerd, okay? I'll be a nerd all you want. That's fine. But I'm the coolest looking nerd. I don't know if you saw me. You can keep up with most of my stuff now on Facebook since I'm kind of bouncing around in between all these websites. But you see that red jacket I had on last night? I know, that's the best looking sport coat I ever seen in my life.
I did not see that. But
oh, man. It's like a dark, candy apple red with a paisley print. Oh, dude, I don't know how you miss it. You got to check it out. It's a nice velour jacket and the paisley imprints. Oh, I'm telling you, man, it was smoking.
How many free advertisements is Fox going to give to Viagra this World Series because of the FS1 poor ratings?
Excuse me?
Yeah, the FS, remember when last year when they had to give all those free advertisements out for the World Series because FS1 got poor ratings? They had to give out a lot of free advertisements to
right.
Yeah, they had to give out free advertisements to Viagra. How many are they going to have to give out this year?
Yeah, I know. It's definitely going to be, especially tough considering that Game 5 will be going up against Sunday Night Football with Green Bay versus New Orleans. Granted, if it makes it that far, but I'm pretty sure it'll be one of those series that will last that long. And I think, even though the ratings won't be there, there's still going to be a lot of happy people, seeing the matchup that we had. Two super similar teams, especially when you're looking at the different, with the ballparks and the home run rates. Basically, Kauffman Stadium has been 23rd in the majors, and AT&T Park was last in the majors in terms of home run percentages. So both under one apiece, and it's just one of those things where you're not going to see a lot of big time power numbers, but I do think there are going to be quite a few people that are going to be able to tune into this, and at least you have teams like Kansas City where there's a lot of teams that or a lot of fans are just kind of looking to root for them, especially all the people that jumped on board. So I don't think ratings are going to be awful, but they will be pretty bad.
I'm tired of the a-holes locally in Omaha that have jumped on the Kansas City bandwagon, namely Dirk Chatlin of the Omaha World Herald. I just get I want the San Francisco Giants to run a train on the Kansas City Royals 4-0 sweep. What are you rooting for here?
It is pretty hard, to go through and pick one of these teams. I know obviously you don't like Kansas City, but I do have to say that Ned Yost, even though he did kind of have a hard time getting through some of the first series, and making some really interesting moves, he did kind of tighten up towards the end of the ALCS where he was kind of running in smart times. I know a lot of the guys he does give the green light, but when it comes postseason, you do need to take a little bit more control, and I think he did that. Did make some smart moves with his pitching, unlike Mike Matheny. But yeah, it's going to be hard. Like I said, definitely it's going to be a longer series. When it comes down to the matchups, I think you definitely look at Kansas City's bullpen. they're pretty much locked down, and they're going to be able to kind of shorten these games down to 6 innings, which is, great for them. But, when you look at kind of getting on the board, somehow San Francisco is always one of those teams where, they're able to score a run without even getting a hit, it seems like sometimes. So it'll be, I think it's going to go longer than I think. I don't know if it's going to go the full 7, but I think you'll definitely see 5 or 6 games. But I think in the long run, with all the experience that San Francisco has, even though it hasn't really played a factor for Kansas City to this point, I do think that, especially with a little bit of a layoff, Kansas City might have lost a little bit of that steam, especially when their hitting was kind of falling off towards the end of the last series. So when you really look at it, I think the Giants are probably going to come out on top.
With Kansas City, I know that their fans are not even they don't know baseball really. They've never watched baseball in 29 years, and they don't understand that the layoff kills momentum.
Why do you always pick on teams? Why do you always pick on the fans, man? You're always picking on the fans.
Because fans are stupid.
I guess some can be, not all of them though.
Well, not all of them, but the ones that are watching Kansas City right now, they're completely stupid.
Man,
I mean, okay, yeah. they're expecting them to run 4-game sweep on the Giants again. They haven't watched the playoff series in 29 years. They haven't seen the Rockies blow it after winning 7 straight games in the playoffs. Every team that has the longer layoff in the playoffs always loses in the next series, and that's what the Royals are looking at right now.
Yeah, that might be the odds, but I think a lot of it, when you look at baseball, you need to understand that a lot of this is, randomness. And, you can kind of blame Bud Selig, for adding in, the 6 divisions and also kind of having the wild card teams and the unbalanced scheduling and now an early play all the time. When it really comes down to it, the teams, made it. They are, the best. They're the ones that, they're in the league. But even with the unbalanced schedule, it all comes down to randomness. The biggest thing, variables rule the postseason, and the best thing to combat that is, having more opportunities and putting yourself in the postseason every year. And so there's not a lot of things you can rely on. Good pitchers, are going to fall apart. You're going to have guys that are going to have bad games. They look at the collapses that, Kershaw had and John Lester. And then you also had these guys that were the Mois, earlier in the year, like Travis Ishikawa and Mike Moustakas. Now they're coming out here and playing big roles in the postseason. There's just so many different things that are involved. And so, even when you look at, I think it was 24.4%. That's like 11 out of 45 teams that have the best record in the major league and end up winning the World Series. And that's since like 1969 introduced divisional play. So, a lot of it just has to do with, outbeating the variables. There's going to be injuries, guys are going to get hurt, guys are going to get traded, so things are always going to be changing. And I think, it's kind of hard to say, who's going to come out when you rely on those kind of, simple things. But, when it does come down to it, you're looking at the Giants here.
Looking at Bruce Bochy, is he a Hall of Fame manager right now?
I think it would be hard to keep him out, in particular if he wins this one. The one thing, about Bochy is the fact that he's kind of had some guys that were holdovers, in terms of, from the previous regime when he came in 07. Look at Dave Righetti. Righetti's been around for a while. Bench coach Ron Wodas, he's been around for a long while too. So a lot of it is just kind of that's been, the one thing. When you look at, like, kind of team philosophies, Tampa doesn't really spend a bunch of money, and they're really, good at, being analytical with their rosters, decisions and things like that. And then, the Yankees are big spenders, and the Dodgers kind of doing their thing right now, and now bringing, Friedman into that. That's been interesting. But, it's really hard to kind of label, San Francisco's philosophy. I think a lot of it has to do with, Brian Sabian being in there, since 97. Yeah, he kept a couple other guys on since, 94. So, there's a little continuity there. And so it's just kind of interesting, to kind of watch everything play out. And I think, Bochy having those other guys, kind of helped him through all that. Because he was already a good manager, had some experience, but having all those other, great people around you to kind of help you along with some of the decisions, putting the right people in the right places, that's going to help you out as a manager. When it comes down to it, I think you will see him in the Hall of Fame. He's just been, really good at, making the decisions, but also having the right guys there.
Looking at, the Kansas City Giants World Series, Giants typically have not been a good ratings catcher for MLB. What do you see for this World Series? Do you think that Kansas City's quote-unquote miracle run can capture some fans, or what do you see for ratings-wise for this World Series?
Oh, definitely. When you look at what Kansas City's done, there's a lot of people that are hopping on board. I don't know if you heard about the story, involving Noah Wilson. The 6-year-old boy has cancer, and so his parents went out there and tried to raise some money. Was working with StubHub, to get him to the World Series. They ended up raising, just about $9,000. I'm sure it's even, skyrocketed at least a little bit more since. But StubHub donated 6 tickets, to his family to go to the World Series. And also, Joe Torre had seen that, caught wind, and told him to, save the money for school because they want to have him as their special guest. So it's kind of cool, having all these different little, sub-stories, they kind of add to this. And, the one thing is I think, it's a World Series, so you're going to get, extra ratings just because, it's a championship. And having a team like this with, the miracle run that, they've been on, that's great too. It's kind of funny, you let in, thank God, not with Carly Jepsen, but one of her comrades, Lourdes, I guess, in San Francisco, there's 2 stations.
Whoa.
KFOG.
You're not putting Lourdes on the same level as Carly Rae Jepsen, are you?
You got to be, right? They're female singers, right? They're colleagues.
Oh, yeah, Lourdes is New Zealand. And she did a show with Springsteen, so she's way above Carly Rae Jepsen.
But don't bring the boss into this. And let me tell you something. I hate having to call him the boss.
You should have to, because he's the greatest performer of not even our generation, our father's generation.
Good Lord. What is wrong with you, Bob?
You just said her name.
Your taste in music, your taste in food. Good.
You don't like Springsteen?
No. Can't stand Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, all right. Well, you must be a right.
It's all the same. He can play for 5 hours and rant, about his political, position and everything like that. I don't know. I'm not a big Bruce Springsteen guy. He gets way too much credit.
Way too much credit? Are you kidding me? Who are you a fan of?
Let's see. You can go with the Rolling Stones. You can go with the Beatles, and I'm not going to pick one over the other.